All right, guys. Hey, this next set of podcasts are all dedicated to elk hunting. And I'm bringing people in from outside of the trad community, guys that have helped me along the way, and guys that have some insight to help our traditional bow hunting for elk. Um, would you say that that's something that you listen to, Jerry?
Right. A lot of people have a lot of good tips and experience hunting elk that don't necessarily hunt with a traditional bow. And I'm always open to learning new things, regardless of the weapon used.
Right. So that's what we're trying to do with this next series of podcasts. So you guys check out the next podcast that's coming up. I think you're going to enjoy this. Welcome to the Barebow Hunter podcast with your host, Nate Bailey and Jerry Goins, where we celebrate the ancient paths of our barebow ancestors, where hard work and woodsmanship outweigh advanced shooting devices, where we value those who've gone before us and welcome those yet to come. Join us as we share valuable insight about the barebow hunter's lifestyle. Welcome to another edition of the Barebow Hunter podcast, and today we do have Jerry, the co-host, with us. Jerry, how's it going, man?
Going well, thanks. Counting down the days to elk season.
Oh, yeah, me too. And we have a special guest with us today, somebody who I've looked up to probably in the waterfowl world and then moved over into the big game world. And when he did that, it was pretty epic because you've done quite a bit in the big game world, but it's Ben Potter. How you doing, Ben?
Awesome. I'm doing good. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, man, we love to have you on. I one of the big projects that you just completed, well, you didn't just complete it, but you put it out on YouTube, and I think it was Wednesday, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct.
Was Elk Fever III. And for those of you who don't know anything about Elk Fever, where have you been? No, for us guys that are in our 40s, I remember when it came out. That's what got me into traditional bow hunting. Is actually Larry Jones and Dwight and Steve going out and putting it on tape. We had called a lot of bulls in when I was younger with my uncles, but we never hunted them. And then when I saw that they actually were shooting bulls, it was like, man, I have to do that. So I'll tell you right now, Elk Fever to me was one of the big things that influenced my bow hunting, that and Traditional Bow Hunter magazine. But so what made you?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I still remember, in my mind's eye, and I haven't watched Elk Fever 1 in, decades.
It's on YouTube now, so you can.
I know. Well, I have a copy of it, actually, but
I do too.
I can still see Steve swinging that bow around at, what was it, a 4 or 5 yard shot at that bull in my mind's eye. I think that singular scene in the whole movie is really what got me fired up.
Yeah.
Hoping to get that same kind of experience.
Right. Yeah. That was incredible. I mean, as a filmmaker myself, it's seeing that, knowing, like, after talking with Larry and Dwight and hearing, like, and Steve, hearing how much work it was for them to even just get cameras into the backcountry, where they were, and then to execute that kind of footage. That's phenomenal, to do that. I mean, those films still are phenomenal to watch. Almost 30 years later, it's just crazy, But obviously a big part of why and what inspired me to try to do number 3, and get after keeping this. I guess I just couldn't handle that they stopped at 2. I was when I watched them both, for the first time just a few years ago. I was like, really? There's like, you can't have just 2. You got to have at least, if you're going to do 2, you have to do 3,
Right.
You got to have a trilogy. And,
right.
So, I think a few of the folks that I work with here at Cana, we, were like jokingly, like, we should make Elk Fever 3, and then that joke turned into, reaching out to Larry and saying, hey, what do you think about this? And, yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so you probably had to spend some time researching on all that, and then so for you guys that haven't seen Elk Fever 3 yet, I really don't want to give a bunch of spoilers out there, but at the same time I'm going to,
Yeah.
because you have to see
Yeah.
it. I mean, if you're an elk hunter that's bow hunted in the last 20 years, this is really an epic. So 3 kind of brings it all back around and ties it all together.
Right. So if you haven't seen it, put the podcast on pause.
Yeah, and
go watch the movie. And
thanks,
come
Jerry.
back.
Thanks, Jerry. Yeah. And where can you find that, Ben? Where can you find that?
So they're on Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's YouTube. It was pretty cool. So Larry had sold the company to
Point Blank, right?
Point Blank
Yeah.
Calls. Yeah, correct. And we sold them to them I don't know, several years ago, and they own the rights to the footage, and they've been really gracious to let us use the footage, in Elk Fever 3, and we used a little bit in the Linguist a few years back when we made that film.
Yeah.
But when we were really, we had a first cut of Elk Fever 3, and I'd be showing it to friends. I like to show any film we do to hunters and non-hunters,
Right.
friends of mine, and kind of get a collective, what do you guys think and how's this feel? And a lot of my friends, both hunters and non-hunters, were saying where did this come from? A lot of questions of why is it number 3? And because I was really trying to honor the original style,
Yes.
but at the same time do what we do at Cana, and
Right.
do our give it our own spin to a degree, and so we're like, man, if we could get Elk Fever 1 and Elk Fever 2 out there beyond DVD, that would be huge. As everyone knows, DVDs across the board. I mean, I can't remember the last time I put a DVD into my TV. It's probably in the 90s. So it's So I started talking with Willie over at Point Blank Calls, and an awesome guy. He was just like, I kind of told him this is what I'm doing. This is what we're trying to accomplish, and creating context to the whole series. And he was totally gracious in letting us give those films to Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation in order to he told me, he's like, I just want to honor those guys and honor the legacy.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, he could have, it was just cool to see that, when you get to know these people in, the bow hunting, especially the elk hunting world, there's people care a lot more about really preserving stories and preserving legacy than they do about making a quick buck,
Yep.
And that was really cool that Willie was down to do that. So huge thanks to Point Blank Calls for
totally.
release, given the rights. So we got them online, and it was great. It was exactly what I hoped to hear. A lot of people that have seen them when they, like you, that have seen them when they were young, were saying, "Gosh, this brings it all back. I'm so pumped these are online." And then people for the first time being like, "Wow, I've never seen this. I'm so jacked to go elk hunting this year." And
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's exactly what you want. You
Yeah.
know, you want the guys that have been around it for a long time to feel, man, right back at home, and you want to inspire the younger generation to see that this is something that's just been around for a long time, and there's some pioneers that we all should know and really pay tribute to.
Awesome. Hey, Ben, this is something that needed to happen in the bow hunting community, is to bring generations together and stuff like this, and the Linguist too. And I forgot to mention the Linguist. I mean, how could I not mention that? But it's a blending. It's a blending of the generations in bow hunting, and we've needed that. We've really need that out there, and you're doing a great job of bringing that to us.
Thank you. I mean, I feel really honored, man. Honestly, I've gotten some pretty amazing opportunities to tell stories that are. I don't want to, put down at all. Just filming an adventure, an elk hunt of anybody is that's exciting, and that's always we're never gonna get tired of those. But when you get to tell a story that is gonna have hopefully a shelf life of 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I hope to tell stories that can get remembered, and by the time that the stuff that Cana does is old school. I hope that's people look back at these films and really see that there's some memories and some people were really preserved in the right light that they deserve. And those are the kind of projects that we get really excited to do. And finding more and more that the short documentary-ish style is what gets me excited. 'Cause you really got to dig into someone's like past and their present and like who they are and what really makes them tick, and all the nuances that easily get overlooked, and really try to capture all those pieces. I think it has a lot more. I mean, you look at, I know how we are, you look at, you go on YouTube and you're like, oh man, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't know if I have time for that. People are, especially the younger generation, is so prone to just watch a 2-3 minute flick
right.
and a hype reel. I mean, those are exciting and cool, but I don't know. I just think there needs to be more like just stories, like real stories. We can't get enough of that, because those are the things that you really remember. Like honestly, as much as I love seeing like a cool hype reel of a bunch of bulls bugling and coming in, or ducks finishing and all that. I mean, that's cool, but I don't remember any of those hype reels. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just like a real quick like buzz. But I do remember Elk Fever.
Yeah.
I remember the silly little lines and the little moments that made that film like so. Like I don't know why, I just love that line when the narrator says, "This is elk hunting." It's just like, yes, let's not take ourselves so seriously and just be who we are. And I think Larry and Dwight like encompassed that. They were just true to who they were. They weren't trying to be celebrities. They weren't trying to kill the biggest bull. I mean, gosh, some of the bulls they killed were little.
Yeah.
In comparison. I mean, it hit me when we were shooting. There's that scene in the film in 3 where I was shooting with Larry in his old shop at night. With the projector. Just going through old pictures. And I asked him, just talk about these. I just want you to talk about we had no real agenda except let's just talk about these photos. And he pulled up a picture of a bull. I think he took the photo, or someone, maybe Dwight did. And he's like, "This is a huge elk right here, and this is probably a 600-700 pound bull." And I was, just being around social media, I was expecting him to say, "This is a 320, 330 bull," and we default to inches, but he was looking at the meat on that animal and was just like, "This is gonna fill my freezer," and I was like, "Gosh, that kind of little things like that make me like, gosh, I'm pumped that these kind of moments, these kind of people, we can preserve the way that their outlook on hunting and the animals themselves and their excitement. I mean, like we said, I don't know how much we want to give away with this film, but just the way Larry reacted after his shots, in the film was like amazing, when I was there capturing it, like I would have been 180 degrees different than he was.
Right.
Right.
And I've been there, and been at that 180 degrees. So I mean, I don't know. It's anyway, just babbling now, but yeah.
In the last 30 years, to your point, things have changed so much. I mean, when those movies first came out, they were 45 minutes to an hour, and they'd end. You'd go, "That's all? That's it?" And like you said, now on YouTube, I mean, it's societal. I think it's all across the board. Even myself, a YouTube video come up and I go, "Seriously, it's 8.5 minutes long." Well, I'll try to fast forward through the stuff that's not interesting. And that's sad, but also to your point as well is, I wish we could get back to the days where any bull with a bow is a good bull, and there wasn't this push to be shooting high scored bulls. But that's just me. Maybe, I don't know.
No, it's not you, Jerry. It's not you, man. I just saw, just to the point, Born and Raised put out a new hat, and on it they have a skull with a raghorn bull, which is so good.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's the way it
Yeah.
should be, you know. And
Yeah.
so that whole so you were talking about the film itself, and talking about bringing back some of the old into the new film, and it and I'll tell you what, man, that last phrase, and I'm not going to tell everybody what it is because you guys got to experience it, especially if you're my age and you were 16 years old when you were watching the first ones, and you were getting so pumped up every season. My wife, so when my kids were little, and I would watch this before we go, because it's about the only one out there. That and some of Will's stuff was out there, and my wife, I said, you got to watch this, Misty, and so I brought her in, and she was watching me watch it, and this was the second time I've seen it, and then that last phrase, because it stuck with me for all those years, and I'm not going to say the phrase because anyhow, it made me tear up, man. I can't say anything else because it's such a completion on just my elk hunting experience.
Yeah.
Because it's part of my kind of ritual of what I do for elk season. And so yeah, and then I texted you right there, and then I said thank you for Elk Fever III, because it was that epic to me. It still is. It's going to be one of those things I watch every year, you know. So
awesome. Yeah, it was my pleasure, man. That's really cool to hear. And it was I've said it a lot, just replying to people and responding. It was a tremendous honor, you know, to tell this story and spend, you know, I'm a new bow hunter. I've been bow hunting for about 6 years, and I'm a very new elk hunter. I've had, you know, the Linguist was, you know, we were filming that 3 seasons ago.
Yeah.
And that was my first time stepping foot, you know, after elk, stepping foot in the woods, chasing elk. And I remember, man, we were in Wyoming starting that whole thing off with Corey and Dirk and Donnie, and my assistant had hunted more elk than I had, you know, and I had not hunted none. And he'd hunted like a handful of trips and filmed. And we stepped out in the woods, got out of the truck. Corey, you know, rips a bugle, and we had a bull like right there, like 150 yards, and I had no idea what to do. I didn't know where to be, and we all took off running, and I just chased him with my huge camera, and was just, you know, I was in the wrong spot. I could tell Corey was pissed. I could tell I was doing everything wrong. And then right after that, he's all right, man, this is where I want you. This is going to be the best shot. And I was just like, you know, I was like, I know I can tell this story. I just need a little bit of like education on what's going on right now. You know?
Awesome.
And that throughout that season, I mean, by the end of the season, it was like I got baptized in like elk
awesome.
country, you know. I mean, it was just like I came in as a, you know, just a duck hunter, grown up duck hunting my whole life, but wanting to do more, you know, and wanting to experience, I mean, bow hunting. My dad, it's really weird. Like my dad bow hunted all through the 60s and 70s, and then he hung it up, like right when I was born. And I asked him, you know, not too long ago, why'd you quit bow hunting? And he's like, I just got tired of eating deer. I mean, he shot some huge muleys, and I was like, man, I would have killed to like, you know, grown up bow hunting. I would have been doing some. I'm in my 30s and you know, my late 30s now, and I'm like figuring this thing out. And anyway, but so the Linguist, you know, really started it for me, and then, you know, since then it's been, gosh, I just feel so honored to have spent time with so many amazing elk hunters. And now this last season with, you know, two guys that have been influential on, you know, I don't know how many thousands of people, you know, you know, as just, I mean, we were filming that scene at the Riley store in Riley, Oregon, you know, and you know, we were just in the parking lot doing the scene at the pump, and had some camera stuff set up, and took us a while to get that shot, and just I think two separate guys, probably in their 60s, you know, pulled up and just walked up said Larry D. Jones, like just right away recognized. And my business partner who was there filming with me and who isn't a hunter, and I think it hit him at that moment that wow, Larry is really like people know him, and following him for a long time, and it's a lot of times I'm trying to convince my business partner that we should do a project, and it'll be worth our time and effort, and he has no clue on like who's who in the outdoor world, and so but it was cool to see over time he kind of like learn about these guys are really have been hugely influential on bow hunting in general and elk. And as as we all know, getting to spend time with Dwight, in some of his last moments in the field. Golly, it's crazy to me that I got to do that with him.
Yeah.
And go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to add, when was that hunt with Dwight? 'Cause I know Dwight passed away this past, I think, February.
Right. Yeah. So that was it was last elk season. It was we were the first week of elk season, I think. So we hunted. Maybe it was around the 7th or 8th, something like that. Last September.
Okay.
And he went on one more hunt with Larry. He had an Arizona tag. And I think Bow Hunter TV did a thing. They did a film on that Arizona hunt. So that was his last hunt. So I guess the hunt I was on was his second to last, as far as I know.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just huge, man. I get to spend time with a guy like him and I just finished reading one of his books, I'm like, now I'm like learning from all this, reading all his stuff and just fascinated by who this guy was. And, being a brand new bow hunter, it's like, gosh, I feel really thankful that I've got to spend time with people like him and Larry and, guys like Corey and all his buddies and, learn. I don't know. It's been a huge learning experience for me.
Right.
I feel like I've gotten the dream of mentorship from any elk hunter.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
Obviously, so much more to learn as well. But
and you put it on film, and now it's something that you've shared with the rest of us. And see, that's the cool thing about film. And Jerry and I are kind of going after the same thing this fall. We got a lot of time that we've elk hunted together, and so we're looking at putting some more of that out, and we got some good stuff to release as soon as we kind of get the whole story together. So
okay, wow, cool, excited to see that.
Yeah, it's so.
Right on.
But when you're talking about all the things that you've brought to the hunting, the big game hunting world, and that's not even including your duck stuff, because your duck stuff's on the same level. It's the same thing, right? It's
Thank you.
It's that overall overwhelming story, and people who are outside of hunting look at this stuff and they see something completely different than what they think about hunters, and that is huge in my mind. Yeah,
I agree. A lot of the people, we're in San Luis Obispo, California, and so this is not a excuse me, a hunting area.
Right.
There's a very small. I could probably count on both hands all the bow hunters in this area, and we're all good buddies, and I think it kind of helps us all, just appreciate it all the more. We do have hunting around here. It's hard.
Right.
It's not Wyoming. It's it's not Idaho or whatever.
Right.
What you guys have, of course. But I got a lot of friends that are non-hunters and never will hunt. I got vegan friends that are anti because of the mistreatment of animals and the mass production,
Right.
But a good friend of mine who's a really talented photographer, he's told me, he's vegan and for those reasons I stated, and he's like, man, honestly, like what you're doing makes me appreciate, like I could do that, like I could eat that meat, because of, for one, the way you present it, and that you're invested in it, and it's just, it's like any hunter is invested in what they're doing. You can't be a hunter and not be willing to sacrifice a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of sweat, a lot of blood. It's like it's just a lot of investment in it, no matter what you're hunting. I don't care if you're sitting in a tree stand. I don't care if you're hiking, 15 miles a day. It's like you're invested a lot, in that hunt. And I think that more and more non-hunters or people that may have been anti-hunting are starting to really get a sense of that investment, and there's enough good, I guess people, when I say good hunters, I mean like people communicating it clearly of like what we're really doing. We're not just trying to put more trophies on a wall, but it's, I'll never shy away from saying I do it because it's super fun. It's super fun to be out there. And I don't understand when people are ashamed of that, because it's super fun, and I get to spend time in the wilderness, and I have potential to put meat in my freezer, and and spend time with my good friends, or maybe my dad, or there's so many things, but I think that more and more non-hunters are starting to really sense that investment and time that we put into, and it's cool that films like Elk Fever, hopefully just communicate that.
And the Linguist, as well. Yeah, and
that Ali with Corey and his son at the end of that. That was just. I was crying editing it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding you. I was sitting in my editing, and I was like, it hit me when everything was there and the music. My business partner scored the whole soundtrack for that film.
Oh, dude.
And he just wrote a song that was so fitting for that moment, and it was just, really tugged on the. Now I have a little 3-year-old. And he says things to me all the time like, Dad, when I'm big, can I go hunting?
Oh,
and I'm like, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Are you kidding? Like, absolutely. We are going to be gone all of September, and your poor mother will never see us again. But yeah, it's
right
I don't
on.
know. Yeah, it's cool to be able to be a voice through films and some photos that reaches maybe a little beyond, just the core, the audience. Elk hunters is a small world. Bow hunters is a small world. What you guys do is even smaller world, so it's an honor to like be able to honor the core guys, but then it's really cool when you see it kind of bleed out into the general public, or maybe people that are a little anti-hunting for the time being, and at least get a conversation and get some questions going in their mind, about what it really means. And so,
and that's way more important than just a short film showing somebody shooting a huge bull. The essence of the hunt, if you can get the essence of the hunt out there, especially to the non-hunters, to help them kind of get it, instead of just, fist pumping and there's certain things that the guys say, like smoked in or dirt nap or all that stuff, that to me seem a little irreverent. And that's not my opinion. But I've had conversations with people who've seen some of this stuff, and especially non-hunters in the 20s who say, I guess if you're going to eat meat, that's the most ethical way to do it.
Right.
And I appreciate the fact that you're going out there and trying to get really close and giving the animals a chance to get your meat. And it's organic, the whole thing. And it's like, wow, some of this is starting to bleed through, instead of that staunch, hunters are horrible and on and on and on. And that's the message. And I think you conveyed that well in Elk Fever III, that it's a lot more than killing an animal, the hunt, and with the good friends and old friends and whatnot. So,
and the history.
Yeah, kudos. I thought it was a great. Yeah. Oh yeah, the history.
History.
Larry was, in my mind, he was a visionary. And he was smart to get this stuff out there when people were saying, "Why are you telling your secrets?" But he was kind of like Fred Bear in that respect of promoting what he does and to get it out there to people so they get excited and they go do it. And so that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we want more hunters, you know? I mean, I don't think it's selfish of us to say we don't want any more people hunting. Like, I get it. Like, you're like, yeah, I don't want to see my spot get blown up, or I don't want to,
Right.
I don't want more competition on the mountain. But, man, there is so much land out there. And it's easy to get tied in to one spot, and I'm very guilty of that, especially in my early days of elk hunting right now. I'm like, all right, I know there's bulls here. I've talked to them here.
I'm going back.
But it's cool when I hear it. I think I was listening to the dudes at Board and Race talk about this, how they just love to go to a new spot every single year.
Yeah.
You know, just because it's a whole new adventure, it's a whole new thing. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I hope I can get there.
Yeah.
And, where I'm that confident to just like, let's go here. This looks elky, and here's feed and water and bedding. You know, that's, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I was at the getting a sandwich yesterday, and a friend of mine walked up, and we were chatting for a hot second, and he's not a hunter, but he's like, you're leaving pretty soon, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm counting down the seconds till I head to Wyoming, and he's like, man, I just would love to do that someday. I'm like, you can. Like, you can buy a tag over the counter, and you can block out a week, and you can have an incredible, if you like, and he loves camping, he loves hiking. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, it's
like,
for you.
It's just like, you could see a little light bulb going off. He's just like, yeah, I could do this. Like, and I think that's the thing that as hunters we want to hopefully promote is that, dude, anyone can do this, like, yeah, you prep, and you, like for anything, you get yourself ready, but anyone can do this and learn how to call. And Corey told me early on, Jacobson, he's just like, you don't have to be an amazing elk caller to call an elk in.
Right.
And I witnessed that my first year elk hunting on my own.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've witnessed it for about 30 years.
Yes, awesome. And yeah, I couldn't. The first elk I called in was over up in northeastern Oregon.
Awesome.
And I think it was two weeks before elk season opened, or it was in August, and I just last minute decided to buy a tag. I was like, I'm just going to go to Oregon. I don't know.
Right.
And a friend kind of pointed me in the right direction, and got up in there, and I think I was 3.5 days in. I had not heard a peep. I was like, I was by myself. I was just like, I'm doing what I was edited, what I saw happen with Corey, what I edited a crap ton, hours of behind, listening to how they called it.
It got burned into your
parodying that. yeah. I mean, those sequences, and I was just doing that, and then all of a sudden, walking this old abandoned fire road, and bugled, nothing. I'm just feeling so defeated. I'm like, what am I doing out here? I have no idea what I'm doing. And bugled, nothing. Walked another 200, 300 yards, bugled, and boom, this bull just fired up bottom of this canyon and started running uphill at me. And I was like, oh my God, I think that's a bull. I don't think that's a hunter. That couldn't be a hunter down there. And so I started moving down toward him, and I was like, well, Corey says I should cut him off. So he bugled, and I bugled right back and cut him off. And okay. And then he got even louder, and I was like, he's getting closer. And I started going down the hill. I was like, I better knock an arrow. I knocked an arrow, and I was kind of on this outcropping with a big tree next to me, and it was real steep. And then I set my bugle tube down as I was knocking an arrow, and I looked to my left, and there was a bull I think it was a 5-point, about 25 yards frontal, looking right at me.
Oh my goodness.
And I was just, I leaned back where you couldn't see me. I went to full draw, and I came out, and I put my pin on his chest, and I just couldn't. There was everything in me saying, no, this is not an ethical shot.
Right.
This is your first shot on an elk. Like, you probably shouldn't take a frontal.
Right.
And he was right there looking. I mean, maybe today I would do that. I don't know.
Right. Right.
You know how it is. You just mull over those moments. But it hit me at that. I played cat and mouse with this bull. He didn't boogie. He kind of just walked off. And I went into that hunt saying, I'm going to kill anything. If I see a cow, I'm a smoker.
Right.
If I see a bull, I'd be awesome.
Right.
And I had his cow at 20 yards, but I knew that bull was right there, and I didn't shoot the cow. I just kept trying to get the bull. And but that little first encounter of calling a bull in was like, holy crap, I can do this.
Right.
And if I can do this, man, anyone can learn how to do this and get so jacked. They'll be ruined for the rest of their lives. You know? And it's like, I've grown up a duck hunter, but I'll tell you what, man, I cannot stop thinking about elk.
Yeah.
It's just like, duck season is fun, but elk are just majestic.
Yeah.
There are just something about those things that, I don't know. It blows my mind.
That story's awesome because, you know, we all have one of those, you know. I didn't shoot at the first elk I called in either. I couldn't. I came to full draw on him and watched him walk off at about 20 yards broadside for about 5 seconds all the way around me, and I just couldn't release. I don't know. I was in first thing when he showed up. I was like, oh, that's not a hunter. You know, you're first off, you're like, you don't quite know. And nowadays it's like, oh yeah, that's a bull. I could tell just by the way he's acting. That's a bull. And but back then it was, you know, I did call in a few hunters before I ever called him in, and there were quite a few hunters in that area. So I was like, But those first encounters, and then you're done. I mean, it's over after that. There's no going back.
Ruined.
Yeah.
For life. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you know, you say now you can tell. I mean, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, there's those moments you're like, okay, that's a bull.
Right.
You know, but I'll tell you what, when we were filming Elk Fever III, there was I don't know what day it was in. I think we hunted with Dwight in the morning, and then he was getting pretty. I mean, this dude was pretty riddled with cancer. Even when, you know, obviously when we were on the mountain, and there was one day where he could only do like a half day, and he was feeling really whooped. I couldn't even believe what he was doing out there.
Yeah.
In his current physical state. But he's like, I'm gonna head back in, and so me and Larry kept going, and we got up on this ridge, kind of toward this little saddle, and it was getting kind of windy, and he, you know, was bugling a little bit and kept going a little bit, and then all of a sudden we thought we heard a bull, but it was kind of windy, and we're like, is that a bull? And I was like, I heard something, you know, I heard that real high pitch, but it was, and Larry heard it again, and then he said, no, that's a hunter. And well, that turned into that bull that's in the film.
Oh wow!
And that was sure enough a bull. And so we set up thinking like maybe it's a bull, and nothing happened. And he's like, no, that was a hunter. And I just was loving that because I'm like, here we have Larry D. Jones, who mistakenly called that a hunter, and it was a beautiful bull.
Right.
And
I guess I should.
You know, it's hard. It's hard to tell, man.
I think you know when it is a bull, but sometimes, or when it's not, when it's a hunter. But sometimes there's those ones that you don't know whether they're a bull or a hunter. You know what I mean? Like when you know when that bull's. Well, we do a lot in the Cascades and close up stuff. So, and then of course Jerry and I hunt them on their beds. We try to. And so we're pretty close when we start getting bugles back. So we don't get those long drawn off ones as much, but when we do though, when we get in close like that, that one 2017, Jerry, was it 2017? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I think so. To be the last time we hunted together.
Yeah. Anyhow,
17.
When that bull showed up that morning, he bugled first, and we're like, yeah, that's got to be an elk because he was moving so much, you know. And
right.
So, but no, good stuff. It's cool to hear that you got the elk bug. So, what do you got planned for this year? Are you hunting?
Oh man, yeah, I'm hunting. I'm hunting. I'm gonna be out there as much as I can. I mean, last year was tricky because I spent a little over 2 weeks with Larry and Dwight. I had another guy filming for 6 days with Larry during the opener in Oregon there. Nothing really transpired during that time. And then we moved over to the Malheur Forest with Larry. Nothing really happened over there either. And then we ended up in Idaho, you know, and that's where we got into some bulls. But, you know, but not a lot. You know, honestly, everything that's in the film was pretty much what we experienced. You know, where when I was filming The Linguist, I mean, golly, I had extra bull footage out my ears. You know, I mean, there was so much going down. It was just had one of those seasons that was just everything lined up. You know, it's just it's hunting. You know, whatever. But so last year I was gone. To mention that, I was gone like almost a month.
Yeah.
You know, and I had a 2-year-old at home.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yep.
it was rough, man. When I got home, you know, it was the trip was crazy. You know, I was hunting Wyoming so I finished with Larry, and then I drove straight to Wyoming, and you know, I called my wife. I said, hey, I could fly home for like 3 days before the guys show up in Wyoming, or I could just go over there and start hunting now and come home early. You know, she's like, why don't you just go and come home early? And so
thank God for those wives, huh?
But yeah, and she is insane trooper, and you know, she works too, so it's just juggling a lot. And so anyway, but I just left that season being it was an incredible season. I learned a ton, you know. But I was like, man, I need to break this up a little bit. I was spending way too much time away from my boy and mama.
Yep.
So this year we got 10 days planned for Wyoming. We're actually we drew Wyoming again. So that's pretty cool.
Cool.
So we're going back to the same area we were in last year. We had a lot of success out of there. We actually went 3 for 4.
Oh yeah.
Which was pretty amazing. I called in a bull for a good buddy, which was one of the most phenomenal experiences in my hunting career. You know, being able to do that for a friend was just unbelievable. And he shot a real funky, like a real big 6, and then it was like a 3, like a deformed, like, you know, real funky.
Oh, that's cool.
Bull.
Yeah.
But he was super into it, and obviously I was into it. I was like, whatever can come in. And I'm pretty sure we got him out of his bed because he was doing that real low, like, you know, like just barely bugling, and we just kind of created a scene and got him hooked up, and all of a sudden there was that one bugle that was like, now I'm coming to kick your butt,
right?
You know, bugle, and here he came, and so that was pretty freaking exciting, and flew home, and that next day, you know, to get back with mama, and I got a tag for Wyoming in my pocket, and then also I got a tag for Idaho, actually, for late season. Now, the cool thing is my wife, while I was out of town with some work and a little bit of hunting, I was hunting over in Lanai, trying to kill a deer there. That was extremely hard, and didn't kill one, but you know, I was over there, and my wife started texting me these quotes, you know, like elk facts, you know, and I was like, what the heck? Where are you reading this or hearing this? And she's like, I'm reading Dwight's book. I was like, shut up, really? And
Nice.
I thought she was just screwing with me, but she was reading Bugling for Elk, you know, by Dwight, and I got home, and she's like, hey, do you think I could go elk hunting with you? And I'm like, are you kidding?
Yes.
Heck yeah, I would love that. And she's like, do you have any time this season? I was like, well, how about we just iron out the last week and just go for it then? So we each got a tag, you know, and she shoots a bow a lot, and she shoots pretty good.
Awesome.
And so I was like, let's just go for it. And so anyways, I'm pretty fired up to get out with my wife at the end of the month.
Awesome.
And in Idaho. So that'll be one for the books, man. So I'm hoping, and then I'm still working on trying to get my first bull. So that's pretty, you know, I'm pretty fired up to give it another try.
You and me both.
Kind of gnarly. Oh, awesome. So, yeah, right. You're lying to me, aren't you?
No, Jerry.
Me? No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Over 20 years of trying.
That's his nemesis.
Yeah.
With the trad bow. 20 years with a trad bow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ape on my back. Well, you know, it hasn't probably been 20 years because I actually stopped hunting them for 10 to 12 years over here. Just got upset with ATVs always being where they weren't supposed to be, so I gave it up, which was stupid. Looking back, I see that now, because now my body is saying, you shouldn't have done that, because it's getting really hard. And
but
wow.
We got some footage of him being within. I think you could smell the breath of that one.
Too much brush in between.
Wow.
It's totally awesome. I mean, that was I don't know how many bulls we saw that trip, but that was a good time. And then
quite a few.
We've been in bulls every trip that we've gone.
Yep.
I mean, that's enough to keep you coming back.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah, just haven't put it together yet.
One of them was deep into the Cascades, and Jerry was, man, I think I about killed him taking him in there. But we did get into a lot of bulls until the wolves showed up, and then it was all over.
Right.
But all right. Well, how do people get to see more of your stuff? Is it all on YouTube, or do you have a website, or how does that work?
So a lot of the stuff that we do is for other folks, other companies.
Right.
So I mean, obviously, there's a lot of our, YouTube is where the Linguist lives. If you want to see more elk stuff. Excuse me. The Linguist is on YouTube. You can just search for that. Elk Fever III is hosted by Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. So check out their channel on YouTube, and you can see Elk Fever 1 and 2 and now 3 just came out. So a really cool thing we have coming out. If you remember at the end of the film, there's that moment with Larry and Dwight, up on the mountain, kind of taking a break, talking for a while.
Yep.
Well, we're releasing the entire conversation. I think it's about 45 minutes of those two guys just going back and forward talking about everything. And it was so hard to pick what should make it in the film. So, when we were putting together assets for Rocky Mountain Elk and for Yeti, they were they're like, what else do you have that you feel like people would want to watch? And I was like, man, that conversation on the mountain was pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And so that's coming out, I think, if not next week. Gosh, I got to look at the calendar.
Cool. Before elk season, though, right?
Soon. Yeah, before elk season. So you're in good shape. But yeah, that's coming out soon. So you'll be able to, if you really want to take in more of just those two guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty special. So two best friends that have hunted for over 40 years together.
Yep.
Just reminiscing. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Wow. It'd be awesome.
So that's
powerful.
on the way. Yeah. But you can check out canaoutdoors.com. I mean, we have a handful of films there that you can watch, and you can follow us on Instagram if you want, if that's your thing, or just Cana Outdoors. Posting a little bit. We'll be obviously posting a lot of whatever happens this year out in the mountains. So I'm extremely thrilled to just be in it.
Yeah.
It's I feel like I was missing it from the day I got home, and so I've probably had 300 dreams about elk in the last year, and so I'm ready, man. I've been doing everything I can to be prepared.
I can't wait and see the film of your wife and kid catching the fever as well.
Oh man, I'm not doing any I'll probably snap some photos, but I really told her, I'm like, hey, we're going in here to hunt, and I'm not going to be hauling my red camera around with you. She's like, good, I don't want a camera. I was like, the last thing she needs is more pressure.
Right.
So,
that was
I'm just like, boy, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was going to say that was a segue into what I was going to ask next. Is there's obviously a big difference in technologies between 30 years ago and what we saw, from last year. And I was going to ask you, what were you using for your filming? You just said a red.
Yeah. So we use red cameras. If you're familiar with those. We have a couple different models. The one that I use the most is called an Epic W. It shoots at 8K, so it's a pretty big frame. Yeah, it's really just a beautiful, beautiful image. And lenses is the hardest thing. I mean, I like to shoot on prime lenses, 6mm lenses for the most part. I mean, those are way sharper, and they just have the look that I like. But obviously, when you're trying to film an encounter, you kind of need a little variation in your millimeter, because sometimes you got to pull out. Sometimes that bolt's coming in tight. There's moments when you just you need to pull out. So you kind of sacrifice a tiny bit of quality for some maneuverability, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, we shoot on a rig cameras, and go ahead.
I don't think the layman would notice difference in quality between primes and zooms. Totally. Especially when you're downsampling from 8K. I'm just making the assumption you're downsampling.
Oh yeah, so the film is actually the film is outputted at 2K. So but even when you do that, a lot of guys have asked me about this. They're like, even if a lot of people have 4K cameras, and so they're like, well, does it matter if I shoot in 4K? I mean, absolutely. I mean, more pixels in the frame. There's still going to be that many more pixels in that frame, even if it's exported at 2K. So it's always best to shoot at your highest resolution, to get, you'll still see the quality and the detail will translate to a degree. I mean, you won't get the full 8K experience, but or 4K experience, but but we've I mean, maybe down the road we'll export it at 4K to see how that feels, but honestly, I haven't really. A lot of times, I feel like if I can't tell a difference, I'm like, there's no way in the world I'm just gonna, because I'm looking at this footage constantly, going back and forward. Just you're watching it for hundreds of hours, and I feel like if I'm looking at both versions, I'm like, pretty much the same. I'm not gonna waste some space and time to do it in a bigger size. But
all right. Well, we're coming up on an hour here. I don't want to cut off the conversation, but we'll probably wrap this thing up, and then can we get you on here again, maybe to talk a little bit of camera and stuff?
Sure, absolutely.
I would love that.
I would love it too. Yeah.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, we're all shooting on Sonys, and then we go down to 1080p, but I'm going to start shooting 4K just for the same reason. So then I could actually zoom a little bit too out of it. So, but
have to get a bigger computer.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Yeah. I'm always wanting a bigger computer. So, I mean, I'd be happy to share whatever helps.
Awesome.
I mean, we've kicked around at Cana doing a workshop. We may host one out in our neck of the woods next spring, but we're still kind of chewing on that idea. We're not totally sure yet.
Well, let me know if you do, because you're close enough for me. that would really.
That'd be fun. I mean, I think it'd be super fun to get to know. We kind of see it as like, man, the more quality films that are being done and better stories being told, like, that's better for everyone.
Yep.
That's better for hunting in general.
Yep.
So if we can contribute to that, not just from our own productions, but to help other people really, because there's just so many amazing stories out there to tell.
Right.
And we're not going to tell them all, and I don't want to tell. I want to see other people thrive and tell great stories. There's plenty of work to go around for everyone if you're trying to make a living off this.
Yeah.
But I think, like, I don't know, I kind of feel a little bit of a responsibility to, if I could say that humbly, to help others, just do their best work, and kind of, people have helped me, I didn't learn this over and, didn't wake up and know how to do stuff. It's been a lot of other people just sharing what they've learned over the years with me, and then I take it and just do what we want to do, and so, I don't know, it's cool when you get the opportunity to spark, fellow hunters and filmmakers to do what they're passionate about.
Yeah, and you do that. I mean, I'm an example of it. There's a lot of things that, and then another one out there is Donnie Vincent that is an inspiration to all of us, and it's the same thing, right? it speaks past the hunting community. That's the big thing to me, is being able to get that message that speaks past the hunting community. That is, and you guys are video smiths.
Awesome.
Yeah. So cool, man. Well, thank you for coming on. Good luck this elk season. I hope.
Yeah. Same to you guys.
Oh yeah, we're counting the days. It's we will have a good time regardless.
Oh yeah, we always do.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome just to be in the woods.
Oh yeah.
Sure. So
yeah.
But yeah, I wish you guys the best. I'm excited to follow, see what happens.
Yeah. I'm really interested in that last week in Idaho now. I want to see you, your wife, and you guys just getting out there and getting elk fever. I love to hear about new people getting into it. It is that good.
Oh man, I just want to see her face when she hears that first bugle, man.
Oh, yep.
Oh, I know.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yep.
And her cow calling is sounding good, so I'm like,
awesome.
I'm excited for her. Like, I think she's gonna be helping.
Yeah.
Once she hears that first bugle, you'll never get to go hunting without her again.
Awesome.
Likely.
Yeah.
Oh man, our family's we're gonna be homeless and just elk hunting, and no one's gonna be working in our family. We're just gonna be elk hunting. That's all.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on. I sure appreciate it.
You bet. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.
All right.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay. See you guys.
Thanks for joining us on another edition of Barebow Hunters podcast. Hey, if you like what you heard, please give us a rating down below. We like the 5 stars. And follow us also on Instagram under Barebow Hunters. Go to our YouTube account, Barebow Hunter at YouTube, under the Life Outdoors heading. So that's Barebow Hunters YouTube under the Life Outdoors. Also, go in, join Barebow Hunter group on Facebook. Thanks again for listening.